And
Only realized during the Elden Ring race.
I have a sinus headache right now. That's my excuse. So it's okay. So yes, when we're talking about okay, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, actually I only ever played Dark Souls 1. Only ever played Dark Souls 1. I know. I got busy, and Factorio came out. Yeah. So, but you know, play Dark Souls 1. From games aren't that different from each other. You know, you got the idea.
It's relatively the same thing with a different skin of fantasy over and over again.
Yeah. But anyway, so yes. Imagine how the entities in the game have been modeled, right? All of your different items are objects of a particular class, right? So imagine, let's focus on weapons, right? A weapon, you can imagine one class for weapons that has instances of all of the particular weapons that you can have in the game, right? Your halberds and your short swords and your broadswords and your spy handlers and all of the rest of it, right? All of these are particular weapons which have particular attributes, but all of these weapons have the same common set of attributes, right? All weapons are, they do X number of damage single hand, if they can even be wielded single hand, X number of damage if they're double-handed, like you need a strength stat over X to wield it, right? All of these are the common attributes of all of your weapons, right? But which item you are specifically wielding at a specific time, that is character data, right? So we would hold inside of our character class a reference variable to the instance of the weapon class that we are using at this current time, right? And you would have, methods to switch, you've got like hot buttons to like switch to two-handed mode and like put one back and bring one out, active weapon, stored weapon. All of these are methods to manipulate what object I'm referring to when I say, what is my active right-hand weapon, right? Does this make sense? But you would not say that the character is the weapon. That's not something you would say, right? Because it's not true. The character is associated with a weapon. You could even consider the sword to be a component of the character in the same way that the engine is a component of the car, right? But it is a mistake to think of the character as being identical with, or the sword as being identical with the character, right? The sword doesn't have, I was about to say the sword doesn't have HP, but it does have like degradation, which is kind of like HP, but Anyway, I've probably pressed the analogy as far as it's past its breaking point anyways. Does this make sense? All right? This is what we're talking about when we're talking about association. In point of fact, most of the time, when people think they should be using inheritance in object-oriented programming, they should actually be using this, right? Inheritance is actually like the rarer of the two, although it's very important to understand both. Does this make sense? So, Gesundheit. You're welcome. So let's consider, oh, that's very small. Let me see if I can increase the magnification. Let's consider this UML diagram. The very first thing we should notice, how many classes do we have?
And the count looks like we have 2 and plus we have 1.
Well, point of fact, there are 3 classes in this diagram. Customer is a class, account is a class, and date is a class, although we are not given any details about the date, presumably because it's just a date. You know, this is probably some kind of predefined object type embedded in the language that's quite common for things of this nature, right? So like, you know, for the purposes of documentation, it's like, yeah, it's from the Java date time class or something like that, right? So, but we have 3 classes and 2 relationships, right? A customer is associated with, or a customer has, between 0 and 2 accounts. This is the name of the variable, this is the name of the class that's being associated, right? So, this means the class customer can have 0, 1, or 2 instantiated references, or reference variables to instantiated account objects. Does that make sense? The notation is a little bit weird. Yes?
Question.
Mhm.
So that's only a one-way association, right? Like, or is the account also associated with a customer the other way?
That's a very intelligent question. It is a one-way relationship,
Okay.
right? Customers are associated with accounts. Accounts are not associated with customers.
But like, you can do it both ways as well if you want, right? If you reference on the account for the customers. Or
So, you can, but generally
you
don't.
Okay.
So, you have to think of this in terms of database access, right? You have to think of this in terms of like, what's my entry point into the data, right? So, and incidentally, this is the sort of thing you would do in SQL anyways, not in Java, right? But assuming you were doing it in Java, let's say we had a bank which had an array of customer objects, right? We wanted to access data for a particular customer. We need to know what that customer's, login credentials, account number is. We need to be able to access some particular customer, right? Only once we've accessed that customer do we get to see the state of their accounts. It's almost meaningless to see an account without seeing the customer,
Oh.
right? Like, you couldn't really imagine it going the other way. If the bank had, well, to an extent, you could do it that way too. Like, you could do it such that the bank has a list or an array of accounts, and those accounts will tell you what customer they're associated with. But the question you have to ask yourself is, am I minimizing redundancy? And is this the way the data would be accessed, like in real life, right?
Yeah.
Um, like when you go to the bank, you don't present your account number, you present your client number, right? That's because there are fewer clients than accounts, right? So yes, so this is the UML notation for association. What this arrow looks like is actually quite important. As we're going to see when we study inheritance, there are going to be 2 arrowheads that we use in this class. This is the one for association. A solid arrowhead will be for inheritance. So it's important when you're asked to produce these arrows on assignment documents or, during a test or something like that, that you're using the correct arrow as it indicates the type of relation. Does that make sense? One other thing, in the case of association, the existence of the arrow implies the existence of a variable of the same name in the class. This is actually quite a common pitfall people have with these. All right? People won't know how to link the account to the customer, right? Because, the sort of, I'm not thinking terribly hard about this, but I'm simply trying to do a translation of the UML diagram into Java code sort of approach to doing this, is to simply go through your list here of parameters and do a thing out for each one of them, and that's it. Those are all your parameters, right? But of course, if that's all of your parameters, you have no reference variables to store references to this thing. The arrow itself implies the existence of a reference variable. It not only implies the existence of one, it may imply the existence of many. How many reference variables are called for here?
One. Is it the name?
0 to 2,
Oh,
right? A customer is associated with 0 to 2 accounts. So, we have 2 reference variables. What does it mean that it's from 0 to 2? It means that some of those reference variables may be null. Either of them may be null, right? The references are not necessarily filled, but the variables are there. Does this make sense? Sort of, hopefully, a bit. All right, and creation date is a similar sort of thing, right? Creation date, there's no object of type date which is called for here. It's implied by the arrow, and only one of them. So, shall we take a stab at writing a little Java code which implements this? That will probably be useful. Everybody please call up IntelliJ. There we go. Was it something I said?
No.
I say that every time. Goodness me, come on. So, I'm not going to do full implementations of the classes that we had. They have quite a few methods. We'll focus on the part, we'll do a sort of minimal example of that, which shows the implementation of the association relationship. Okay? So, there are basically 2 approaches to developing things in general. You can either go from the bottom to the top or from the top to the bottom. Going from the bottom to the top means starting with the small things that don't inherit anything or are not associated with anything, the base sort of classes, right? And then building up from there. That's probably the better way to do it. A less good way of doing things is top down. It's like I'm gonna rough out the algorithm, and then I'm gonna fill in the specific details later. This would be like writing your view before you've written your model. I don't recommend this for Java development. So, you may get away with it in JavaScript, but only because JavaScript is a terrible, terrible language. No one should use it. So, let's make a new class. Account. There we go, public class account. So, taking a look at our UML diagram, yes, there we go. Let's fill in a few of these details just to give it a little body. We have a private double interest rate. We have a private print, private int. You know when you're thinking about two words at once and you run them together? Private and int became print in my mind. ID. Private double balance. Maybe give it a constructor. Did I show you how to use the thing to make the constructors quickly and easily? Yeah? Just as a review, if you hold the Alt key and press Insert, you can generate lots of things very easily, including constructors. Constructor, select the value that you want it based on, and oh look, there it is. See, a lot of Java is like, the ways of doing things are very routine, so it's amenable to this type of autocomplete. This is not the case in many languages, but if you want int and balance, you can do that too. Interest rate, there we go. Question?
How did you do that, Professor?
You hold Alt and press the Insert key.
Okay.
And then constructor and select the values you wanted to construct a constructor from. It's a constructor.
Did not know that was a thing.
Yeah. Well, and look at you. You came to class, and now you know, and everybody who didn't come to class doesn't. Yes? Well, this is also accessible from the right-click menu. Right-click, and it's generate. So if you can't get to it with shortcut, you can get to it that way. Oh, look! Getter, setter, getter, setter. Let's see. We need getters for all three, I think. Oh, was that fast and easy or what? Right. I mean, who wants to sit there and type out getters and setters? You still have to document them though. Okay. So, alright. So anyway, we have an account class. Very good. Let's move to the customer class. Let's create a new Java class, call it customer.
Can you go back to account for a second?
The Java?
I want to make sure.
And in case you're wondering, it didn't use AI to do that.
Good.
No trees were burned to cinders in the process of that very simple autocomplete. We didn't boil 10 kettles of water worth of energy just to do that simple little autocomplete. See, autocomplete has been a thing for longer than AI. but you shouldn't assume that all autocomplete is AI. Anyway, so customers then. Private string name. You're actually given a bit of a hint here. Right? Notice how we have a constructor taking a string, an account, and an account, but we have no account variable here. Right? Generally, you know, the only object type you'll see in these things typically is string, right? Private, account, account 1, private, account, account 2. Again, reference variables. Remember, the name of a class can be used as a data type. Insert a constructor giving you the name. Insert a constructor giving you the account 1 and the name. Insert a constructor giving you all three. What is the default value of an object reference?
Is it null?
That's correct. The default value of an object reference is null. So, if the thing we are using to keep track of how many accounts this customer has is how many of these object references are non-null, our work is done. Right? We could, in theory, put lines in here in each of these constructors saying, you know, account 1 and 2 are null, account 2 is null, none of the accounts are null. You could do that, but it's already the default value. As a matter of practical experience in this type of thing, it's very often the case that you will either store that inside of a data structure, or you should be doing a little bit of light data structure bookkeeping yourself. Like, it would be very useful having an integer telling you how many accounts this customer has. Right? That's just useful information. Trust me, you'll want it later. Right? So, does that make sense? So, this is the implementation of the association relationship. It is now done. Does that make sense? Good. So now let me tell you why this is generally probably not the best way of doing this. So here, the way that this thing is currently designed, we are relying on the parent class, the superclass, in an associative sense, to create the accounts for us and pass them in. Right? This can be problematic. Remember that these are object references. Right? So, let me ask you a question. Should the state of someone's account be private? Probably. Let's imagine that we have a bank class. Right? The bank class, let's say the bank refers to 2 customers. Call them A and B. Alice and Bob. These refer to instantiated objects of the customer class. Now let's say that we're about here in the execution. Let's say that we are in this situation where the reference to the account has been passed to the customer instead of customers creating their own accounts. So we have an account which has been created by the bank. Presumably, there'll be some temporary variable holding this value, right? This then passes that reference to the corresponding field in customer, which acquires the reference. Presumably, the next step is to remove this reference. But what if it doesn't? What if a mistake is made? What if this value isn't cleared? What if it isn't reinstantiated? Right? What if somewhere in someone's code, that value that was supposed to be cleared wasn't, and the next person called for an invalid operation which didn't set the variable? Perhaps it still goes through the same routine, assuming that the variable is unset. This is a real world situation. I saw the same bug in one of your submissions for assignment 1, actually. I'm not going to say like who, obviously, but one of the bugs which I noted in one submission I received from assignment 1 was basically having used an if statement instead of a loop while checking the value that was entered, right? So because it was an if statement and not a loop, the thing was only being checked once. So the effect was, if I enter an invalid value, let's say I want, 3,000 rows of blocks, right? It would say, I am sorry, that is too many blocks, please enter a valid number. So I say, okay then, I want 3,000 blocks. Because it was only an if statement, it accepted that on the second go, right? Which meant, essentially, you were only checking the error once, right? Which means it's not very good error checking, right? But this is the type of thing that you have to think about, is the state of memory, right? Reusing memory is a dangerous thing. You shouldn't reuse memory if you can help it, right? You should always clear things when you're finished with them. But it's a thing people often forget to do, right?
Does this happen if you do a range?
What do you mean?
Like-
A range?
Like, it's like from 0 to 200.
Oh yeah, totally.
This will happen if you do that, right?
See, what you're talking about there is the condition that goes in the round braces, right?
Yes.
That condition, if it's in a if statement instead of a while loop, has the behavior I just described.
Oh.
Yeah, because the if statement will only trigger if the value is invalid. So it reprompts, but it doesn't loop back and check again because it's an if statement, right? So basically, you're only checking once. If I enter an invalid value twice, I get my invalid value through, right? But this is the same category of error that I'm talking about here. What if somebody makes a mistake? So what happens if the value of that temporary variable is used to instantiate customer B? This is customer A. Customer B. What happens? You end up with two customers sharing an account. Unless they're supposed to be sharing an account, we don't want people sharing accounts, right? The only time people should be sharing accounts is if both parties have consented to the sharing of an account, which is not this situation here, right? Not to mention, the bank does not have to go through the customer to get to the account in this case, if it has a reference to the account object, right? So, if you presume checking what the password is on an account, or checking a customer's password is the right and proper domain of the customer class, which I would argue is probably true. That's bypassing a login check right there, which is another thing you don't want to do, right? References can be tricky. This is the take-home message. References can be tricky, so you should be careful with them. And you should particularly be careful with them if you're passing them into constructors. Right? Far, far better is that the parent class is not responsible for the creation of the account. Far better, the customer is responsible for creating its own accounts. Right? I'll show you the difference in code. Insubordination. Things should stay where you put them. That's one of the reasons I like Linux, is because things stay where you put them.
Where's the meaning of the name Linux?
Oh.
What is Windows?
So Linux is based on Unix. Unix is, I forget, it's based on an earlier thing. I forget where Unix comes from. Unix was a very famous operating system that was developed in the late 60s. You can kind of think of it as like the original IDE for C programming. You know, it was like they wrote Unix in assembly, then they wrote the C compiler in Unix, then they rewrote Unix using C, and that's Unix. Unix is very popular because it was distributed for free to educational institutions. That's how it became very popular. MS-DOS, Microsoft Disk Operating System, is a bad ripoff of Unix. And basically at a certain point, the people, like Unix changed ownership, and the people who owned it decided they were going to start charging for it instead of giving it away for free. And of course, this meant that like everybody was like, oh, I'm going to do an open source software movement now because this has offended me so badly, right? So basically open source software is born, people start writing operating systems under the condition that they're giving the operating system away for free and that nobody can ever charge for it. That's in the licensing terms, right? So you have a few early iterations of this, like OpenBSD. Eventually, I think in '91, is he a Swede or a Finn? I think he's Finnish. A Finnish man by the name of Linus Torvalds writes the first version of the Linux kernel. Linux stands for Linus Unix. He named it after himself. And the rest is history. He still actively develops Unix, actually. And he has nothing to do with Linus Tech Tips. That's a podcast by another person named Linus, who has nothing to do with Linus Torvalds. As I found out.
That guy.
Ooh, Linus Torvalds?
No,
The Linus Tech Tips guy?
I heard some stuff about him.
Oh, well, you know. I mean, yeah, I think I've never actually listened to it. I understand it's kind of like pro-AI kind of material. I'm not sure. I've never actually listened to it. I shouldn't say things about people when I've never listened to their podcast. I know that people would sometimes talk about stuff that was talked about on it. That's kind of like, it's kind of, yeah. Anyway, so let's fix this code. Fix this code. So basically, you want to get rid of both of these. They're both wrong, right? They're both taking references from external sources. You don't want that. What you want is you want a public void method, right? Create account, right? Perhaps it takes the data necessary to create the account, right? Whatever data is necessary to do that. For example, if we look at account, perhaps it's taking interest rate, right? Perhaps it's even taking ID, although actually that would probably be a static variable. We're going to get to static today. Create account. If account 1 is, oh man, if account 1 is not null, then account 1 is equal to new account. And that's how you do that.
So if we get rid of all the other stuff then?
Else if, yeah. I mean, easy come, easy go. We generated it to begin with, right? Yeah.
It's giving me an error saying cannot resolve constructor account.
Oh, you've got a problem in your account. Let's see here. Oh, no, yeah, because we don't have one with no, yeah, okay, so we do need it. It's telling us we need an ID, so okay, you'll be 1 and you'll be 2. Yay! Once again, these labels, the gray ones, are being inserted by IntelliJ. I did not type that. To type that is a syntax error, right? That was put in by the editor. So, if account 1 is not null, create it. Otherwise, if account 2 is not null, create it. Otherwise, scream that there's no space left for accounts. Looking good? Does that make sense? So that solves the problem, right? The object references are never shared with the calling thing, the thing that owns the reference to the customer object. So there's no way for it to get that information, right? Especially considering we've made these things private. Always a good idea to make things private unless necessary otherwise. Any questions? Okay. So, let's see here. So, I have to say, I was talking to the professor teaching the other section. He referred to this as a memory leak. That's not what it is. Okay, memory leaks are something else. Privacy leak, sure. Not a memory leak. You know what a memory leak is? A memory leak is when a program doesn't, oh, sorry, yes.
The ID thing isn't showing up for me.
The ID thing isn't showing up.
You know where your account is?
Is this what your account class looks like? So, this is what a memory leak is. It's generally a thing with lower level languages. We don't have to worry about memory leaks in Java because we have a garbage collector. When a program allocates itself memory and then does not deallocate the memory when it's finished with it, it just keeps that memory allocation forever. Right? So basically, you imagine like a process that's running for a long time, like an operating system process, right? Over time, every time it performs a particular operation, it allocates to itself, 32 bytes of information that it, never releases, right? Over time, 32 bytes, 32 bytes, 32 bytes, 32 bytes, it increases in volume over time. It's memory that's no longer it can no longer be used by the rest of the operating system because the operating system thinks that this program still needs it. When it doesn't, it has no way of telling that. So basically, it ends up turning your RAM into Swiss cheese. You get a bunch of dead spots all over the place where the memory's been allocated, but nothing's released it, right? So what happens is this process continues for, I don't know, maybe a week or two, for as long as your computer's on, and then at a certain point, your computer just kind of starts being really slow for no reason, right? And my computer's slowing down. You know what I should do? I should probably reboot it. So you reboot you reboot your system, and the problem goes away for a week until you have to reboot it again, right? Basically, that's the problem. It's a memory leak. And the reason that your computer goes real slow when that happens is because it started caching to the hard drive because it's run out of memory and RAM. You can probably diagnose this in your system. If you take a look at your system view, you can probably diagnose some of these problems, right? But yeah, and this is a traditional problem with Windows operating systems because Linux people are better programmers and free their damn pointers. Yes, still not working?
So why don't you turn public int get ID once, we turn it into an integer. This cast it.
Yeah, I made it the double up here, my friend. That should be it.
Oh.
So, shall we talk about static? So, all right. So static variables. So, by the way, the line for what's going to be on the test, we just stepped over it. All right, we're now in, this is going to be on the next test territory. Okay? Don't everybody leave, please.
Well, it's goodbye.
So static then. Static is kind of a tricky concept. Hopefully, I've had a few runs at trying to explain what on earth static is to people. I think I've got it down to a science at this point. So, static. Okay, so let's remind ourselves of how main gets declared, right? How is a main method declared? Public void main. Public static void main. So by the time we're done, we'll know what public means, static, void, and we know what main means. So by the time we're done here, we'll know everything about the main function, right? So, static. All right. Static is the opposite of instance. Up to now, when we've been talking about variables, you'll, in the notes and when I say that, you'll often hear me refer to them as instance variables. Variable defaults to instance variable, right? Static variables are not instance variables. This is the distinction. Static variables are bound to the class itself. Instance variables are bound to the objects of the class. Instantiated objects. Instance variables, instantiated objects. Instance of the class is the object. Right? So, what do I mean the data is attached to the class? I actually mean that explicitly. The way that you access static values, one of the ways you can do it, is through the class name itself. Account.x, for example. So, let's see what the notes have to say about that. So, compare and contrast static and instance variables. Static variables are created at compile time. Why? Because the class is created at compile time. Instance variables are created when the object is created. Instance variables are attached to the object, not the class. Static variables, you have one copy in total. That is, everything, both the class and all instances of the class, share one variable when it's static, because it's attached to the class. In the case of instance variables, you get one instance of the variable for every object declared from the class. If I have a class representing, Goombas in a Mario game, right? If one of those attributes is, position on screen, right? I will have a separate position for each Goomba object. But I will only have one copy of the static data. A good example is the number of Goombas that exist. Right? And that makes sense. Information about Goombas that's not specific to a particular Goomba should be static. How many of these are there? Right? How many have been beaten so far in the level, if that's relevant to, there's some games where you have to shoot a certain number of ships to get to the next level, right? The number of ships you've shot so far in the level is not data about any particular ship, but about ships in general, right? So you would attach that to the class rather than the object. Does that make sense? Sort of? All right. So, instance variables, if they are public, are accessed through the object's name. Static variables, if public, can be accessed through the object or the class name. So this requires a certain level of, thinking. So let's imagine, right? Let me, this bloody thing. Ugh. I hate everything. All right. Physical reality hates me. All right. Let's imagine we have a class, right? A class for a badnik, which is what they used to call the enemies in Sonic games.
They still call them that.
Do they? Oh, that's lovely.
They still call them badniks.
Very good. So, as a person named Nick, I've always been very mildly offended. If that's okay. So let's say that you have from class Badnik instantiated 3 instances of enemies in a video game, right? You know, maybe you've got like the crab meat enemy, which is the crab one, maybe the buzz bomber, which is the bee-looking one, and what's another Sonic enemy? Motobug, he's a good one. All right, go look these up if you don't know what they are. They're cute. So each one of these guys has particular information pertaining to him. At the very least, position, right? Everything that's in the game needs a position. Position. Right? It's correct that these guys don't share a position, right? However, something they could share. I'll put that out to you. What's a piece of information that all of the enemies in a video game could share?
Who they should attack?
Who they should attack? Sure. Well, yeah. This isn't really how you would actually do it, right? Yeah.
I would answer by fighting for victory.
Sure. Yeah, it's well, that's a behavior they all share, right? But it's like each one would have a different way of going about it, right? Each of the enemies kind of has a different movement style, right? And it's a bit too abstract. An easy one is just the number of them, right? The number of enemies there are in a level, for example. You could even keep this updated. As soon as you beat an enemy, you tick that down. Maybe something nice happens if you beat all the enemies in a level, right? There are games when that's the thing you do, right? Hunt them down, end their lives. So,
Well, technically they're not dead, since it's animals inside there. You're basically freeing them.
yeah, I mean,
killing them.
robots aren't alive, so we have no moral qualms about destroying them, right? It's no different.
Using animals as a fuel source, that's the thing.
Right, even if it has big cartoon eyes and a personality, it's really no different than taking a sledgehammer to your dishwasher, right?
There's only an exception in one game, that's it.
Yeah, we won't talk about Nier Automata.
I never even played that game.
I've only heard about it. Anyway, getting sidetracked. So, the number of enemies that exist, that is certainly information that has to do with enemies. So it should be categorized somewhere here. But it's not enemy that has to do with any particular enemy, right? It's not appropriate that every enemy has an instance, a reference variable to every single other enemy, right? That's too much bookkeeping, right? That being said, maybe it's useful just saying that you would have inside of this class, a group of references, an array of references to every instantiated object of the class. Maybe if there's a global effect, you have to call a method on all of them all at once. How are you going to do that? You need some reference to all of them, right? Boom, you can keep that. You can keep a reference to all of your instantiated objects, and you keep it centrally, right? Instead of relying on all these guys to be listening. The other way to do that is to have a kind of listening for an event, right? Do an event system, but that's another way of doing it. Does this make sense? Am I making sense? Do you have any questions? It's kind of an abstract kind of a thing, you know? But here's the thing about accessibility, though. This is what I was actually kind of trying to drive towards. So the way that you get position on, for example, this guy, is you do this, right? The way that you get to one of these is you can say either or, right? You can either use the class name or you can use the object name to access static information. This is because every object knows what class it's from, but the class itself doesn't know what its instantiated objects are or where they are unless you do that bookkeeping, right? So you can get from here back to there, but you can't go the other way. This thing has no natural path to its objects, unless, of course, you put something like that array in, right? Does this make sense? Okay. Yeah. Shall we do a code example? Let's do a code example. So let's make a new class.
In source?
Yeah. Don't make it anywhere else.
What do we call it?
I'm calling it class Badnik. You can call it class enemy or whatever you like.
Call it that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Sonic.
So let's do, private int position, or position x, comma, position y, right? X and y position, sure. You could put many other things here. Private, well, let's make it public. Public static int number. Create a constructor. Initialize position x and y to 0. Nominal stuff. Pardon me. Thank you. So, normally it annoys me when people instantiate their variables up here. But in the case of static, that is precisely where you should do that. These values are assigned before the constructor is called. If you're expecting to increment a value, right, in order to add something to something, it should have been instantiated, right? So, just like that. let's make a main class. There we go.
What's the command for public void main again?
Oh, main tab is one way to get to it. PSVM tab is another.
On the keyboard, what would that be?
Oh, you just type the word main and hit tab.
Oh.
Coding doesn't have to be painful. I mean, I'll revise that. Coding has to be painful.
Yeah.
You taught us, on the first day of client-side web programming, you did a whole section of the lecture dedicated to, what was it called?
JavaScript hates you.
No.
No? Okay.
Something.
No, it was JavaScript hates you. It's how we were going over all of the ways that things can be defined, and it kept getting really weird outputs.
And it was
Yeah.
I know, it was, I'm
Yeah.
referring to something else.
Yeah, because it hates you.
Something with your hands? What was it called?
I forgot.
Ergonomic keyboards.
Keyboards?
Keyboards, the ergonomic ones.
Oh, yes!
The tunnel.
Oh yeah, every keyboard you'd have ever used has
Something
been
tunnel.
designed to break you. Yeah.
Carpal tunnel, that's what it
Carpal
was.
tunnel. Yes. The design of keyboards is a great big operation by big wrist surgery.
What's your stance on laptops then?
They're very unergonomic, but the portability, like normal, my computer is a laptop, but anywhere I use it, I plug an ergo keyboard into it. So, I just about ruined my wrists one semester on a laptop keyboard. So, but mice are the worst thing. That's the thing, right? Like, oh man, I was talking to Simon Dalton about ergonomics and stuff, because I want to put a couple of slides on it in the read right for JavaScript, but I was talking to him and he was like, oh yeah, carpal tunnel surgery among sysadmins. It's always the Windows admins. And there's a reason for that, because they have to mouse around their interfaces, right? Like moving a mouse like that, like don't use your wrist to do that, all right? If you have to use a mouse, you have to move around, keep your wrist, like, imagine a wrist brace on there and move it with your arm, all right? Because it's like, you're all young, all right? Most of you anyway. You have like, you probably haven't worn your bodies out yet, you know? But like, if you're like me and you're, the age of 40 is staring down at you like the barrel of a gun, then you start realizing, oh wait, yeah, I shouldn't have been listening to my music, my headphones so loud, you know? Maybe I should have been using ergonomic equipment all of this time, because the body does wear out. It does, right? Like, you have regenerative capabilities to a point, right? But you can't regenerate everything. And one of the things you can't regenerate is ear cilia inside your inner ear. And the other one is like your wrists. Please protect your wrists, all right? It's important. Because like you don't want to have wrist surgery by the time you're 30, you know? Simon described the wrist surgery to me. You guys want me to describe the wrist surgery to you?
Oh,
Right? So, all right. And it's always the right hand that needs it. Why? Because that's the hand that uses the mouse. So, your wrist. They have to make an incision through here and up here. They have to relieve the inflammation inside of the carpal tunnel and then stitch you back up again, and it doesn't work every time. All right? Yeah,
Is the code due for assignment 2 tomorrow?
that's right. Yeah. So, all right. Badnik A is equal to new badnik. Badnik B, badnik C. Right? Run that program. What should I expect to see? A value of 3. Right? Because every time I run the constructor, I run it through num++. It starts at 0. I instantiate 3 of them. I therefore get 3. Yes?
So making a public static is kind of like making it a permanent thing, right?
Yeah, it's almost like you want it like a variable constant, which I know is like a contradiction in terms, but like in the sense that constants are kind of like global data that
It's always there.
Yeah, exactly. It's always there. It's always there in this case as well. I'm not sure that there's a huge amount of point in private static. Unless it's helper methods to public static methods. Well, like, I guess you could have like the private static values and write like your static accessor methods, but like in theory you shouldn't be able to like grab the number and yank it around, right? So yeah, you should have some methods. Hey, that's a segue.
So what?
Static methods.
Ah.
Oh. So a static method. Actually, probably some of you will have noticed this, right? This is an error that people will get. If you're a keen sort of student, you might do something like, ooh, these should be attached at the level of the class. Why are they being put as local inside the main function? Right? Something like that may have occurred to you. Problem. Non-static field A cannot be referenced from a static context. Right? So, static methods are only allowed to touch static data. Right? Think back to this diagram. The class, again, doesn't automatically have references to the instantiated object. When you have instance data, you are saying this is data for a particular object, right? So in our main method up here, by doing this, we are saying this is data for a particular object. This doesn't exist until the object exists, right? Therefore, if I go to use it here in a static context, this is the static context. The static context does not have the information from the instance contexts. It can't use instance information. Right? Yes? If you had a question. Did you have a question? Oh, okay. The class can sometimes be a little bit like an auction, you know? Don't put your hand up unless you need to. So, does that make sense though? Right? We can't access, like, if we have a method up here that is attached to the class of all enemies, it doesn't know the position of a specific enemy, so it can't use that data, right? Because that automatically asks the question, which specific enemy, right? Okay, you want access to the position data of what object? Well, I don't know. Right? You need like a specific reference to a specific object to be able to tell what its position is. Right? When it's static, it's for everything. When it's instance, it's for a particular thing. Right? Is this making sense? Yeah? Okay. So that's what the origin of that error is. This gets solved in one of two ways. Either you just put it inside, right? Variables which are local to a static method are themselves static, right? Or you make this a static value. You include the static keyword. However, I would caution. I would advise caution. Making something static is that has a lot of semantic consequences. Don't make things static unless they should be static, right? Think carefully about your code before you compile it, right? Or at the very least, think carefully about your code after you compile it and it doesn't work, right? Make sense? Yeah? Good. So, notation in UML diagrams. When we make things static, we be underlining them. That's it. That's how you can tell if it's static from a UML diagram. It's underlined. A lot of this is about the actual Okay, here's an interesting. Yes.
I was just wondering, what's how important is the dash and the plus sign in the UML diagram?
Along this column,
Yeah.
it tells you whether it's public or private, so pretty important. Without that, it's incorrect. Everything is either public or private. Well, technically there's also protected, but we don't talk about protected. Everything is public or private. So you need a plus or a minus sign. So here's a fun exercise. Let's see if we agree with how this thing has been developed, right? So, account. Annual interest rate. Is it true that all accounts have the same interest rate? Not generally. This is what's being claimed here, however. Right? So perhaps we don't agree that this should be static information. Right? You'll find that this is a fun game that I sometimes play with the slides. I'm like, do I agree that this is correct? Let's consider checking and savings. Both integers, both public. Okay. Checking and savings are static constants to represent the type of an account. So, static constants. All right. So they should certainly be declared final, right? So, if this is some kind of internal code telling other computer systems, possibly written in COBOL, that these are, this is what the definition of a savings account is. This is what the definition of a checking account is, right? These are the codes corresponding to these different account types in your system, right? In that case, that is acceptable and non-abusive use of notation. However, if you take that to mean there's something about those two things that tells you what type of account this is, you're starting to run into a problem. Right? Those do not tell you whether any particular account is checking or savings. Do we have information that tells us if it's checking or savings? We have type. Right? So, the type integer will either be checking, the value of checking, or the value of savings. It's a weird way to do this. Yeah.
Can we just use like 0 and 1?
Yeah. You know what you do is you'd make it an enumeration, which is another thing we don't teach you. You want to see what an enumeration is? Very quickly. Notice that there's an enum down here. You guys notice that one?
What?
Enum. It stands for enumeration.
So, fifth class, we have 5 classes in this. What does that say, sir? Thank you.
You're welcome. Free, frozen, and burn, and faint.
Where's the issue coming from?
Oh, it wants status.burn. Because those are all the Pokemon status conditions.
So we're making Sonic and Pokemon now.
I'm just doing whatever I want, really. People seem to like the video games in this classroom, so I'm going with the video games.
One day,
You seem video game literate, so
one day we're gonna go Pokemon, like one day.
Yeah. So these are mapped to integer values. That one's 0, that one's 1, that one's 2, that one's 3, that one's 4, that one's 5. They are substituted by the compiler, but it allows you to label simple numeric, like integer values with different types of things. And you can just, it's not string comparison, it's much faster than string comparison, right? This is what everything should do. But, you know, if you want to, if you want the good way of doing the account thing, right? You do this. And by the way, I'm not a wizard, I just know C programming. This is all kinds of C programming. You have like account type, right? Savings, comma, checking, all right? 2 different labels, right? And then within the account, you would have, you know, private account type. You know, this dot type is equal to account type dot checking. It even fills it in. Something like that. That's how you use it. Yes.
So enum files are literally just those 3 lines and that's it?
Yeah. They're kind of similar to arrays, actually.
Very weird.
Yeah, it's an older way of doing things. Kind of maps to a. Like if you're doing this in like a C, like something like C itself or like a C-like language, this almost is more related to a macro than like a proper data structure. Like I don't know if you know this, but in C there's actually no such thing as true and false. Like the true and false booleans are actually rewritten by the precompiler to 0 and 1. Or I guess that's false and true. But yeah, So like, and here, like, the C programming language didn't get support for Booleans until 1999. What did people do before then? False was 0, not false was true, and that's how they did it. But yeah, so that's like how you would do it properly, in a way that hides what the particular codes are for like static and or for checking and savings, right? So you don't have to know what the particular codes are for checking and savings, but you still don't have to like, okay, all right. This may happen to you in your careers. If you ever find yourself writing a comment that goes like this, 1 is equal to this, 2 is equal to that, 3 is equal to this other thing, you should be using an enumeration. You seem like you may have been in situations like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen enumeration in real code, in real life.
Yeah. They're real. They're a real thing.
Yeah.
I should put them in the JavaScript course if they're not going to be in this one. I think this is the better place for them, though. You know?
Yeah, I've seen them in real life, like tests that run against different environments, like production or staging, and then they have enums in the code to be like, if it's production site, do this. I don't know, but I've seen enums. That's one example.
Yeah. Okay. So one final thing. The main method is always static. Why? Because you are running it, and you're only running, like, the program needs one point of entry, right? Definitionally, there is one point of entry to a program. So you don't have a point of entry in every instance of your main class. Like, think about your views, right? If you're instantiating multiple views, right, you're probably doing it wrong, because there's one way that you're in, like, there's one user. So you're interacting with one user using one class, not multiple classes, right? So that's why the main method is static, is because there's one of them, and it's attached to the class. If there's a possibility of there being more than one of a thing, you're probably not thinking about a static member. Make sense? When outside the class, always access static variables and methods using the class name, not the object variable. This makes it clear that you are accessing static components. I completely agree with that. Just because you can technically do something doesn't mean you should, right? Consider this short snippet. We have an account 1, which has been created, right? We then have doubles x and y, which are the annual interest rate that we are getting from either the object or the class. Since static members are bound to the class, it makes more sense to access them through the class, right? This is less clear what's going on, right? So you should always try to code in a way that makes it clear what you're doing. But it's a stylistic thing. Make sense? Good. Yeah, okay. Any questions? No? Okay. Yes?
Try to relate with the test that we will have next week.
Sure, hit me.
Is there such a thing they can release, such as outline for the test next week?
Well, let me see what I've released on Thingammy What's It. This is the review that I'm going to go through in class. All right. Test 1 review. Let's see what's in here. Some review problems. So, I'll tell you what's on the test. This is the test. Test coverage is that except static.
So, okay, everything except static.
Everything except static. Yes.
So we're gonna have to remember Java FX stuff, right?
Yeah, that's coverable. Normally, there's more focus on it later in the course, after we've done things like event systems with it. But yeah, it's certainly testable. Yes.
So for the Java test, I assume you will be doing almost the same way as the JavaScript test, where we have some short answer questions and after some code.
There will be short answer questions. There will be coding questions. Yes. Yes. Make sure you've practiced writing Java programs.
For the short
You have
answer.
some?
No, like this before you just went to class, I wanted to kind of, I had a question for the group because it's possible I might have a question about like what time is better for them for Java.
Oh,
Before
please.
you. Okay.
You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So I know it's a small group here. So I know like probably nobody wants to go to the Java Pass session after this because you guys have been in class for several hours straight. So one question I have for you guys is Tuesdays after your client side, you guys have an hour break. Like, would that be a better time to do a Java Pass session? Do you think? Because next week I'm definitely going to do Java test reviews, and my boss asked me if maybe I could use that space. I mean, I figured you guys are probably tired by the end of this class, and that's probably why nobody wants to go to my Java Pass session after
It's
this.
also like I'm intending to go eat dinner. How many people are intending to go eat dinner?
Right?
Yeah, and they've had like I think 2 classes before this too.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like the best timing for this day. All right, because I'll send an email out. I'm gonna try to Tuesdays like 12 p.m. after your client side to have a Java test review period.
Oh, question. There's also one tomorrow.
There's one tomorrow at 12. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
one tomorrow. There's one tomorrow too. Yeah, there's one
Yeah.
today after this class. There's one tomorrow, but then next week I'm gonna try to do it Tuesday at 12 p.m.
Okay.
Go to the past sessions. Just do it. Just do it. Question?
No,
Just stretching? Okay. Any other questions? You guys want me to get into arrays in the last 3 minutes of class? How about this? Why did the programmer quit their job? They didn't get a raise. See you next week, or see you
Actually,
tomorrow.
do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm here till Thursday. Wait, today is Thursday. What? Yes, I'm dismissing class.
Well, no, I was gonna ask.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna be, yeah, we have class tomorrow, right? Yeah, 9
I
a.m.
was gonna ask something about the tests.
Okay, well, okay, all right, we have a question about the test.
Oh.
Hit me.
How's it gonna be like structured with the type of questions, like multiple choice, answer, stuff?
So short answer means mostly like proper short answer in this context. Don't expect any multiple choice questions. It's going to be focusing on rules of syntax and rules of semantics in Java. This is kind of in opposition to the client-side test, which will focus more on semantics than syntax. In Java, you will have a focus both on semantics and on syntax.
You
Yes.
Giving the entire class time for the test?
Yeah, I think so. Are we given 3 hours for it? We have 3 hours for it.
Yeah. 3 hours.
Yeah.
On Fridays.
I mean, I don't. I'll talk to Kokegan about it. I forget. I saw it. I don't know what's. I forget. A headache. Ask me tomorrow. Alright, I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, I hope you get some pain medication in you. Or rest, or food, or all of the
Get a
above.
NyQuil.
Like when your sinuses are back, it really doesn't matter what you take.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that sounds rough.
I'm gonna do is ask you some questions.
So, my original intention was to do code review like now, and let the chips fall where they may. But the fact that we have had a weather event out there, which is obviously delaying some of the class, although it seems like a fair number of you have gotten here on time. But in consideration of those who, like apparently the Go bus system is in a state of confuzzlement at the moment, so we'll give people some time to get here, and then we'll do the code review. But one thing that some people got caught on last time is I did code review with them, and then they just kind of left, and I didn't actually require the remaining hour. Right, I didn't require all of it to do the code review. There aren't that many of you, to be frank. So we went on and we covered some material, which of course, if people left class, they didn't get the lesson that was after the code review. So please understand, code review is a segment of this class, not necessarily the final segment of this class. Okay? Because we have a lot to get through and not much time to get through it in. So are we leaving our test review for next week then? Or would you like to do it now? Leave it for next week? Shall we put it to a vote?
Probably leave it to next week, given other conditions right now. So maybe be the best event if people are going to show up.
So basically we've got one of two options. I can either do the test review with you guys now, or we can go on and do arrays and start that unit. Those are our two options. Here's like pros and cons, at least from my perspective. Pro for doing the review now, it gets you thinking about the test well in advance of the test. This is ideal for studying, right? The thing about test, right? Okay, so here's a small spiel on studying for tests, right? How many of you play a musical instrument? A little bit? Yeah? So if you play a musical instrument and you want to get good at it, how often do you practice?
Like every day.
Like every day, yeah. How long?
Maybe an hour.
Maybe an hour? Sure. Reasonable, right? I mean, are you going to improve your skill otherwise?
No.
There you go. So understand that learning how to code is in the same category, right? So you need to be practicing daily, solving problems, right? Even if it's not necessarily a productive hour or half hour, right? Simply force yourself to sit in front of the computer, open up the correct programs, and stare at it for a bit. Even if it's not productive, you're at least in the habit of it, right? So this is how you acquire the material, right? When you're studying, I know it's kind of like a truism that cramming doesn't work, but it's very tempting to think that cramming for tests works. Cramming for tests doesn't work. This is how you should study. In the week or 2 weeks before the test, you should spend 20 to 30 minutes, maybe a bit more, per day studying and reviewing the material. This will mean that the information gets stored in your long-term memory, not your short-term memory, right? It's all about which memory system you're storing the information in. First, and finally, like, it's absolutely critical that you incorporate recall exercises into your studying, right? So, one of the worst ways to study, and you know, I was there, I was a student once, I did this too. One of the worst ways to study is to just read the material, right? Your retention won't be very high. Just kind of like, oh well, you know, I read module 3 times, time to go for number 4, and you just read it, and you're like, oh well, I read it, I feel like I've done something, you know. That's not going to be beneficial in the long term. What you want to do is you want to force your brain to cough that information back up again, right? Think about it in terms of circuitry, right? What you're trying to do is you're trying to, like, you know, from the sort of neuroplasticity model of the human brain, what you're trying to do is you're trying to set up the circuits in your brain, not only to store the information, but to get the information back out of your brain again. Those are two different circuits. If you exercise one but not the other, it's useless. You know, you become the internet without a search engine, right? You need both angles. So what are recall exercises? Well, they can take many different forms. One of the techniques that I personally use to learn the courses I'm teaching you is to summarize the information. And not summarize it with the page open. You read through the information, you close the book, and then you take a piece of paper and you summarize the information that you've just consumed, right? This practices the recall pathway, right? This is one way to do it. If you have friends quizzing each other, you know, come up with a few quiz questions. Everybody comes up with like 3 quiz questions, and you quiz each other on your quiz questions, right? That's an effective way of doing it, as long as the books are closed, right? The books are closed until you're completely stumped, and then you open the book and you look, right? If you're not torturing yourself, you're not learning. And I know that's kind of a weird thing to say, but like, it's the, like, human beings are kind of funny things. If there's no pain involved, you're not going to have enough motivation to do anything, right? So like, learning is painful, right? We are reordering, restructuring your brain. We are performing physiological changes. Your cells are being moved around. It's painful. Mental stress, right? Well, you know, without mental stress, you're not going to learn anything, so that's what the test is there for, right? So yeah, I would caution against certain types of studying, particularly flashcards. Flashcards are not a good way to study, although you may think they are.
Well, I was gonna ask, how come you don't think they're good?
Science and studies. They're very good at improving a student's confidence with material, but they're not good at all at improving a student's competence with the material. All you've done by the time you've memorized flashcards is memorized flashcards, right? They don't contribute to an understanding of the material, right? So, you know, they only work if the test is going to be composed of the same questions that are on the flashcards. And then you haven't, like, learned anything. All you've done is you've memorized a test and then regurgitated answers you don't understand. It's not learning, right? So, don't use flashcards. I know some people like flashcards, but anybody who tells you that flashcards are a good way to study is lying, basically. Intentionally or unintentionally. It's not the truth. That being said, good chunky practice problems are a good way to study, right? The problem with a flashcard is like you have the answer in front of you, right? In an ideal case, when you're doing studying, you're solving problems and you're not looking at the answer. At the very least, not until you're finished with the question, and then you can go see how you did, right? But basically, the answer should not contribute to your solution, right? Otherwise, you're using a crutch that you won't have during the test. So, any questions? Wait, what were we even talking about? Are we going to do the review today or not? Okay. Are we going to do the review today or not? Who would like to do the review today? How many people would like to do it later? Wow, we had 3 and 3. Wait, okay, we have to actually count. Do the review today? 1, 2, 3, 4. Do the review next week. 1, 2, 3. Damn it.
We're tied.
All
This
right.
is what weather does to us, people. It doesn't bring in enough people so we can make a concise verdict.
Vox populi, vox dei. God is undecided. I'm flipping a coin.
Voice of the people versus voice of God, I suppose.
This is my lucky penny that I've had in my wallet since they discontinued pennies.
They discontinued pennies. In America or here?
Here.
Oh.
Yeah. It's got a maple leaf on it. Very cute. Alright. If it's heads, we'll do the review. If it's tails, we shall do a raise. It's that's the queen right there. Actually, a much younger queen. Alright. It's heads. What did I say heads was? Heads was
Do it
review.
next week, actually.
Yeah. I remember that now. Yeah, heads was review. So we'll do the test review.
Alright.
Alright. That's fair. That we let physics decide. Alright. There's nothing more fair than a random number generator.
It's not even a random number generator if it's physics. That's way different.
I mean, well, alright, I'm not, nice try distracting me with philosophical questions
literally
about
trying to say
physics.
a completely different thing.
Physics is not completely deterministic, go ask a physicist. Alright.
RG, you like a wheel or something.
Yes, no, I mean, if you're not ascribing, you know, some kind of cosmic will to RNG, then, you know. Alright, so. Gesundheit.
Thank you.
So this is how this is how I usually do review in this class. We have an old test. Alright? Let's go through an old test.
One that you made?
Oh, heck no. Man, I was still in diapers when this was made. Ha! No. This is from 2018. I wasn't working at this institution at that time. Well, let me think. Actually, I was just teaching the thrice accursed tech writing course because I was a part-timer. Oh man, that course has never not been dismal. So, very happy to be teaching actual programming these days. This document is representative of the breadth and scope and difficulty of the questions you will face during the test. It certainly does not contain the questions that you will face on the test. However, they are, broadly speaking, representative. So, this is how we're going to do it. How many people have a notebook? Alright, for those of you that have notebooks, please open to a page and start. We're going to do the questions. I'll give you like a minute and then we'll discuss the answer. That's how we'll do it. Pop quiz! for those of you who don't have a notebook, open up Notepad, like Notepad specifically. Notepad does not correct your grammar, it does not highlight your syntax, it is just you typing and it appears on the screen. It is the best simulation of the testing environment where you get no aids. Alright? So, we'll see how much you learn, okay? So, one thing, alright, this old test has quote-unquote allowed abbreviations, which are like, if you don't want to write public static void main, then you can write PSVM. We've decided to get rid of that because it really just generates more confusion and questions than is useful, you know? If you have to raise your hand to ask a question about the allowed abbreviations, you have already wasted more time than the abbreviation would ever have gained you, right? So we're not gonna allow abbreviations of this kind on this test. So, all right, is everybody prepared? Everybody ready? Question 1. Write Java code to declare a variable of type integer without assigning anything to it. You should be able to crack that one off in about 30 seconds, I'd say. Probably take me more time to set my stopwatch. Everybody done? All right. Actually, you know what? This actually works best if you guys call up this document on all of your computers, so I can use the board. So, can I ask you guys to open the document on your computers, please? Thank you. Question 1. How do we declare an integer? Yeah?
Public int and then whatever our thing we're trying to assign is, like the variable.
Well, as a matter of fact, public is unnecessary in this case. It doesn't specify whether it's a local or an instance variable, right? But what's the name of the thing?
Int.
Yeah, well, what's the name of it?
The variable.
Yeah.
Declare variable. Like the variable type or just the variable itself?
What goes here?
I just called it X.
You just called it X, and that's right, my friend. If the test doesn't specify what the name of a variable is, pick something short.
So if the question doesn't say we need it in a public or private class, we don't put it in the class at all?
That's right. Notice, the question does not call for a main method. The question does not call for a class to be declared. The question only asks you to declare a variable. In fact, let's take a look at this here. For the code questions here, answer them writing as little code as possible. No need to declare a method or a class unless the question explicitly requires it. So, that's 2 marks for what, like 6 characters? Pretty good. Don't expect them all to be that easy. So, question 2. Write a single line of Java code to declare it a variable of type double and assign 3.4 to it. Question?
My Java review here looks a little different.
I'll come take a look.
It's not the Java review files, test 1 winter 2018.
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind, alright.
Thank you. So, someone just shouted out.
Public, or not public, I guess, X bracket double X. And then close bracket.
Double B equals 3.14.
Oh, right.
Does it call for the name there? No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
That's correct. Yes.
Here's a question, on UML diagrams, how would you like define that? Because it doesn't have public or private.
Normally on UML diagrams, you don't do local variables.
Oh,
If it's, we're not using protected, and it is the expectation that every, like public or private, will be specified for every instance and static variable of a class.
okay.
So basically, we're defining our classes in such a way to exclude that possibility.
Gotcha.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Very good. See, we're learning stuff. This is great. So, question 3. Which of the following statements are okay and which will cause a syntax error? For those that will cause a syntax error, explain why in a short statement. I will give you, I think, 2 minutes for this one. Yeah, 2 minutes? Right now, we're doing the practice test for review. So if you go and log in, pull it up, we'll be going through the questions one by one. So, this isn't like quiet reading time. Did you guys get that in school? Like quiet reading time?
I did.
Good. Oh man. 3A, syntax error?
No.
How many people think yes? How many people think no? If you think yes, why?
Because it's not assigned a double variable.
Yeah, so it's being declared double, but we're assigning an integer, right? This is not a type error, right? You can use integers in places where doubles are asked for. What you can't do, as we'll see, is the reverse, right? But I do admire that. I do admire the impulse to think of Java as strictly typed as possible. It's not a bad error, although it's an error, right? So I kind of just gave away the game. But for a number B, is that a syntax error or not?
I think it's an error.
You think it's an error? How many people think it's an error? Why?
The value assigned is a double instead of an integer.
That's right. So think about it this way. If we take a double value and we crunch that down to an integer, we are, by implication, losing the decimal place. Right? The technical term for this is truncation. Right? We take a great big machete, we bring it down on the dot, right? And we keep the bit that's whole number, right? Most programming languages will not engage in that form of data loss without explicit consent, right? Explicit consent here would mean casting as an integer or using an integer conversion function, right? Or using like math function that returns an integer, like I think it's floor to int or something like that, right?
Oh,
C. Ooh, yes, question.
Sorry. So is that the reason why it works the other way around? Because you're not losing information on your integer?
Precisely so.
Okay.
Right. You don't lose any information on an integer, storing it as a double, but the other way around you do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the principle.
Alright.
Very good. So, C, string C, B is plus B. Error? How many people think error? How many people think no error? If you think an error, why?
Because you're trying to call a variable that causes an error.
You're trying to call a variable that causes an error. Well,
Is it because the variable declares a string and we cannot make operation with strings?
no, that's not the error.
I think
So-
oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I think the variables are declared, but I think if it had it declared as a string, it probably will work.
So,
I'm not sure.
it all depends on how B has been declared, right? Let's assume for the time being, so to speak, the integer B has been declared as it was on the line above, as an integer, right? This would not be a syntax error. In Java, the plus sign operator overloads to either arithmetic addition or concatenation contextually. This is a bit different from Python, where explicit conversion is often necessary. Explicit conversion to string. I can't remember if Python automatically concatenates integers into
With
strings.
a comma it does.
With which?
A comma.
Oh yes, with the comma, yeah. But if you're using the plus sign in this manner, you have to use like str in brackets. You have to do the explicit type conversion, right? Yeah. It's been years since I've done Python. Yeah, so Python does not do explicit type conversion on the plus sign. This is one of the rare instances where Java does something that Python doesn't. So this one's not an error. All right, D. How many people think it's an error? How many people do not? If you think it's an error, why?
I think it's an error mainly because I think it's putting in too many digits that the program can handle.
You are correct.
Yes.
So, How big is an integer? How many bits? 32. So the maximum allowable size of a 32-bit integer is 2 to the power of 31, approximately speaking. So we have approximately 214, what is it, 2 billion? About 2 billion. Decimal point, yeah. About 2 billion is the largest number that you can represent there. You can see that the number given here is quite a bit larger than 2 billion. So in order to express it, you would need what? How could we fix this to make it correct?
On this one?
Nope.
With a double?
Not, well, you could use a double, but you would lose precision. Right? There's an integer format we can use that's, we can do this and still keep it an integer. Anybody? So, the size of an integer is 32 bits. The size of a short integer is 16 bits. The size of a long integer is 64 bits. Right? So, there are 3 different ways to declare integers in Java. You have int, short, and long, corresponding to 16, 32, and 64 bits respectively. So, if we converted this to a long integer rather than a short integer, we have room in it of approximately 2 to the power of 63, which is 9.2 times 10 to the 18th power, which is certainly larger than this number here, I think. I don't know. It's to the point where I start having to count decimal places, and I don't really want to do that. I think we've made the point. Any questions about that? Yes?
I actually do know what the number would be.
Hmm?
I actually do know what the number would be if you did say what it is,
Yep.
It'd be about a quintillion.
1 quintillion?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so it's like a billion, trillion, quadrillion, quintillion?
Yeah, it's basically that.
Yeah, I think that's still underneath, that's still not 18 decimal places, is it? So million is 6, billion is 9, trillion is 12. Well, actually, it's coming close to it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Mm.
Quadrillion would be 16, and then quintillion would be somewhere in 18.
Oh, so maybe that's too long for a long. Alright, well, so it goes. In that case, use a double. If it's too long for a long, use a double. Alright, but you should try to use an integer if you can, right? So, question 4.
Oh, wait, sorry, you were doing it wrong. It goes up by 3 zeros, not 4.
Was I counting wrong?
Yeah, you were counting wrong.
Oh, crumb.
Yeah, million is 6, billion is 9, trillion is 12, quadrillion is 15, quintillion is 18.
Quintillion is 18, so yeah, I think we are just under the limit actually on that. Anyway, let's not get stuck grinding our wheels in this particular.
Yeah, it's narrow either way.
So, question 4. Assuming the existence of a scanner object stored in a variable named input, write a single Java statement that will get an integer from the user and store it in a variable. I think you should, question?
I got it already.
Yes.
The question?
Yes, let's give everybody a moment though. Unless, is everybody else finished that one?
No.
No? Okay, we'll give you a little bit of time. "45 seconds. This is just syntax recall. It's an integer, right? Int x is equal to input dot, what's the name of it?
Next int.
Integer.
Next int. Very good. Question 5. Write a Java statement that will print you entered blank, where the blank is replaced with the number the user entered on the previous question. I will give you 30 seconds for that one. Should be able to do that with grace and alacrity. There we go. System.out.print line you entered plus x. Now, okay. There is one gotcha in this one, all right? This section expects exact syntax. There is a difference between what I have written on the board and this. What is the difference?
When it prints it, there won't be a space between the variables.
That's right. If we have it like this, this version would not print a space between entered and the x variable. Now, on a handwritten test, it can sometimes be difficult for me to tell when a student is leaving a space. So, this is what I would like everybody to do. In places where you feel spaces are important, such as here, there is a character you can use to indicate I am leaving a space here. It's not underscore, it's underscore with little ticks on the side. That is like the printed character for space. On old keyboards, you used to see this symbol on the space bar.
I mean, still kind of see them.
Yeah, sometimes. I don't know, maybe Mac keyboards do that. So, if you're concerned that I won't note that there's a space, put that in there, all right? But I would ask you to exercise some caution. I have seen people's tests where they put that character every single space that there is a space in their program. Like literally, like I've seen tests where people have done public, static, void, main, right? Tab, 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 right? Please don't do that. Please don't. It's only in places where it matters for like the way a string prints, that sort of thing. I can tell that you, like in something like public static void main, I know where the spaces are supposed to go, right? Please don't do that. I saw that test and I was like, oh, you poor soul. What kind of monster do you think I am? So, okay, next question has a little bit of has some teeth. Write a for loop that will print integers from 2 up to 10,000 counting by 2s. The loop should not contain an if statement. shall we give you a minute and a half? I know you're probably already done. Minute and a half for that, please. Should be able to crack one of those off pretty quickly. All right. So, where did my markers go? Markers! There we go. So, how do we write a for loop?
For bracket int I equals 2, semicolon, I under 1001.
When you say under, what symbol do you mean?
There.
Less than?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 1001 or 10,001. Okay.
Sure.
Semicolon,
Mm-hmm.
I plus 2.
Anything else?
Inside do system.out.prints line I.
Very good solution in general. I'd only change one character.
Replace semicolon with comma?
So the plus plus operator is not you can't it's a unary operator. You can't like plug a 2 into it. You could do I plus 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 as a matter of fact, that would work. But if you're adding any number that's not 1, you use plus equals. Okay? But otherwise, pretty good. Yeah, good. Very good.
What's that supposed to say, sir?
What's what supposed to say?
The bracket there?
This?
Yes.
I.
Oh, that did not look like an I.
Basically, I'm betraying my training as a person who at one time studied like electronics. When you do electricity, you always do I with a little curl that way, because that distinguishes it from J, which curls the other way, right? Yeah. I'll try to be consistent in my notation.
Oh, just a question.
Yeah.
But on the I less than 10,001, would like less than or equal to 10,000 also work, or?
Of course.
Okay.
Yep. Either is acceptable.
Oh, yeah.
Either is acceptable. Yeah. The point is that you've included that particular one.
Yeah.
because that's stated in the question. Question 7. Write a do-while loop that will accept a string input from a user. You can assume that the scanner object has already been created and stored in a variable named sc. Continue to accept input until the user enters the word quit. Shall we take, I think, 2.5 minutes for this one? Alright, how do we start a do-while loop?
You started with do, curly brace, and then like at the bottom you go curly brace while.
Very good. Let's talk about content. We are accepting input from the user. What does that look like? String input from the user?
Just IMP equals SC dot next line.
INP is equal to SC dot next line. Very good. I'm presuming your INP variable will need to be declared. Where did you declare it?
Meant to do string IMP.
Yes. Oh, here?
Yeah.
Yeah. String INP. Okay. Accepting it. All right. Is there anything else we need to do in the loop?
In the while, do brackets, IMP does not equal, and then double quotes quit.
Thank you for being brave enough to volunteer your solutions consistently. Can anybody spot any things we might adjust, any errors? Yes?
Don't you need to first like put like this and out print a line and then like what you need to enter and talk?
Often, but let's see here.
And then do the string INP?
So ordinarily, you would have some kind of output to the user. However, it's not called for in the question, and since this is section A, we're trying to minimize, not write any code that's not explicitly called for. So in this case, I'd let you get away without doing that. Right? Anybody else have any criticisms of this piece of code?
Don't you also need to like say like string INP and before the curly bracket?
So this is an interesting one, yeah. So let's talk about Java scoping rules, right? Java uses block level scoping, right? So because it uses block level scoping, the scope of this variable is here. Presumably, we're taking this input so that it can be used later, right? Which means, I think it's probably more correct to declare the variable outside the loop.
So you
Yes.
go above, so then go above to put string INP equals sc.nextLine?
Well, this is a situation where I would split the declaration from the instantiation. If we have read next line here, and we have next line here, and this is a do while loop, we will read the input twice before it's tested once. The first value that the user will input will be lost. Right? So, no, we shouldn't read from next line up here, we should do it here, and only inside the loop. In this case. This is like one of the very few use cases for a do while loop. So, there's one more thing that I would adjust here. This is a fairly important one. Don't use the equality comparison on strings. Use the dot equals method. Right? The equality comparison will compare the actual values that the strings are composed of. Remember that the equality comparison operator compares the memory location of objects when it's used on objects. Yeah, yes?
Just one question. Well, when you said next line then bracket, do you need a semicolon or if you forgot?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
If you forgot to mention in the test, would that like lose you a mark in there or?
Not a whole mark.
Okay.
For this section, for section A, exact syntax is required. So, you know, would I take a mark off over something that small? It depends on how long the question was for me. Like, if you're kind of in this territory, you know, I'm trying to, like, I have to give you 2 marks based on 6 characters. You're going to need to produce every single one of them, right? Over here, like, we're kind of getting more into general thrust territory, but since this is still part A, it's like exact syntax is required. Basically, you're relying on me to be nice. And, you know, I probably shouldn't say this, but despite all outward appearances, I'm actually nicer when grading than you might expect me to be, compared to like some other profs in the department, so. I talk a good game, but when it comes down to it, I'm a bit of a softie. I will fail people if they deserve it though, no questions asked. Well, except for the test questions that were asked. Let's move on to the next question. All right, this one should be a short one. Write a Boolean expression.
Wait, we don't put anything else in there?
No, that's it. Write a Boolean expression that will evaluate to true only if a variable named x is either in the range 10 through 15, inclusive, or the range 20 to 25, not inclusive, exclusive. I think 45 seconds is sufficient for that. You guys feel this is useful review?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Generally, people like it when I do a review. So. There you go. So, yes.
If open bracket, x is greater than 9, ampersand, ampersand, x is less than 16, close bracket, and then 2 just straight lines, forget to name them.
I usually call them vertical bar character, but that's extremely clunky.
Open bracket, x is over 20, ampersand, ampersand, x is under 25.
Sorry.
Close bracket, and then just 2 curly braces.
Yes. So, generally good. Couple of things. Because the question is only asking for a Boolean expression, we actually don't need the if statement components. But that's okay. That's like a common error people make on this sort of question on a test. Understand there's a distinction between the expression that you put in the brackets and the entire construct, right? But yeah, generally speaking, this follows your earlier style of like moving the number down by 1 and using the strict inequality operator, right? An alternative way of doing the same thing, of course, would be to say x is greater than, ooh, I almost did the math notation. X is greater than, or less than or equal to 15. That is also fully correct.
Wait, so do you lose marks if you like added the if statement or?
Yeah, I might take a small deduction off.
Oh,
Yeah, like a half mark or something.
yeah,
That's supposed to be an 11 or the straight lines?
that's or.
That is not an 11. That is the logical OR operator. 2 vertical bars. Yes. So, yeah. Enough said about that, I guess. Any questions? No, it's crucial, I think, is the one that was,
Because they were selling out to AI data centers.
yes. Well, like, yeah, like, OpenAI formed an exclusive contract with like one of the 3 main suppliers of RAM, and as a result, it's been kind of fun. There's this, are you guys aware of the website Camel? It's kind of fun. You can just take like an Amazon page, enter it into this, and it'll give you like historical price data for the Amazon item. Very interesting. And if you do this with like, you know, I've got like one RAM chip that I've selected that's kind of my benchmark for like, you know, the whole thing. It's like 64 gigs of like the crucial, like fairly basic crucial RAM. It's not got like the gamerized casing on it or anything, right? You know, last year this stick of RAM cost, you know, like $180, right? And at the moment, it's going for over 1,000. So, so this was kind of like, the advice I gave people in the fall was, if you need a new laptop, you should have got it during Black Friday this year, right? Because it's going to take like a year or two for those prices to like filter down into laptops, right? New computers, but like it's going to happen. There's a possible future where people will be able to make money by like buying a laptop Black Friday last year, pulling the RAM chip out of it, right? Although apparently laptop RAM has not been quite so much. It's like desktops then, right? Buy a desktop last year, hold on to it for a year, resell the RAM chip, and you make a bunch of money. Yeah.
RAM is starting to go down in price again.
Oh, is it?
AI is going bankrupt.
Is that happening right now?
Yeah, next year they're going completely bankrupt. They're losing billions, even trillions.
Well, I'll have to check the prices on Amazon to see if that's reflected.
It's a slow decline right now, but it's definitely showing signs of going down more and more.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was listening to a podcast on the subject. This might, hopefully this is like a general interest topic for the class. I was listening to a podcast on the subject of the AI bubble, right? And essentially, like a lot of comparisons are being drawn between what's happening now and what happened in the 90s with the dot-com bubble, right? Now, during the dot-com bubble, a stock that was like comparable to what OpenAI has done was Cisco, right? So in the 90s, if you're trying to build out the internet infrastructure, it makes sense that like the main provider of parts that go into the physical infrastructure of the internet would do well, right? That makes sense. Here's the difference though, right? Cisco made money on every router they sold, every switch they sold, right? The problem that ChatGPT has is that they lose money every time somebody uses it, right? The product doesn't make money. In fact, it loses money very rapidly. And you can tell this from like some very simple aggregate statistics, right? If you take OpenAI's total income, right, not profit, income, from all sources last year, it's about $22 billion, right? If you look at their compute expenses alone, not like paying people, not like not like building new data centers, just the price of the computation alone, $500 billion. And now think about that, $500 billion in computation wasted on people, you know, generating things they could have easily looked up on Wikipedia, right? But that means, right, that like for every dollar they bring in, they're losing 20, right? Now, sooner or later those chickens are gonna come home to roost, right? Now, I don't know if that's gonna be this year, I don't know if it's gonna be next year, I don't know if it's gonna be next month, I don't know if it's gonna be yesterday, right? And I just haven't heard about it yet, right? But like, a company can't lose $20 for every dollar it makes and stay around for like 50 years. You know, it's just not how anything works. You know, so we'll see. We'll see how long it takes, but that's another good reason to not become dependent on the AI. Like, you know, a lot of people will kind of use the argumentation style, it's here to stay, you better get used to the idea, this isn't going anywhere. It's like, isn't it? Let's examine that assumption for a moment, right? Because that is an assumption. But yeah, people will play this game, it's like, oh well, you know, you don't want to be left in the past, right? It's like, you know, this thing is now here and you can't put the cat back in the bag, right? It's like, yeah, but if you've literally made a pyramid out of cats, the cats will maybe rebel and the pyramid will collapse and you suddenly no longer have a cat pyramid to rely, you know, to hang your company on. So, you know, is it true? You know, because it's kind of like, the thing about it is like, it's kind of structurally lumped under this like, this is technological progress. Technological progress never goes backward, right? You know, ask the Romans, right? Here's an fun and interesting fact about the Romans, right? Apparently there's archaeological evidence that they were quite close to something approximating the Industrial Revolution that happened in like in the 1800s in Europe. Like they were developing like steam-based machinery, like right toward the end of the Roman Empire, and like, you know, then the empire collapsed, and you had the Dark Ages, right? And you know, even during the Dark Ages, technology like it's not that it collapsed completely; it just kind of grew up along different routes, you know. But yeah, you know, we'll see how it goes.
So basically, you want us to use AI more so it dies faster?
No. I mean, I will admit that like every once in a while, when I've used the bloody thing, or I've seen Google do it for me, I'm like, you know, you're losing money doing that, right? But yeah, no, no. My perspective is that collapse is bad and should be avoided, and we shouldn't do anything to hasten collapse because people will die, and that's bad. I'm not an accelerationist. So anyway, let's continue to do some Java problems, shall we? So question 9. Write a single if statement that will print yes if a variable, I don't know, is this useful? Is this question useful? Can you guys all manage an if statement?
Well, let's see what happens.
Yeah, you want to do it? Okay, all right. I will give you only 45 seconds for this one, though. Write a single if statement that will print yes if a variable x named x contains the exact string Java and will print no otherwise. The condition is slightly interesting here. I don't like this type of testing. I don't like testing on syntax. I don't think it's useful. Yes?
I have a quick question, just I'll thought repeat this. For next week then, is it gonna be like all writing or is it gonna be like computer coding?
It's definitely going to be written, pencil, and paper testing. I could tell you stories about Canvas-based testing that would curl your hair. It's not great. It doesn't work well. And I abstain from online testing on principle, basically. All right, let's do it. What do we got?
if bracket x, two equal signs, in space, and then quotation mark Java, and close quotation mark, curly bracket.
I'm willing to leave it at a dot dot dot, because I'm assuming we've talked about how to use print, right?
It'd be,
So let's look at the text of the question though. If a variable x contains the exact string Java. So what this is a test to, like what this is an attempt at is a test to see if this variable is the exact string Java, not contains the exact string Java, right? And this you would want to use dot equals anyways, right? But the following should match. Right? This should come out true. So, we need some other string method. I'd like everybody to page down right to the bottom of the thing for just a moment. Good morning. Helpful class diagrams. Notice that you're provided, and you will be provided this on this test as well, the upcoming test. You are provided a list of handy string methods, pardon me. So, let's take a quick look. Any of those do what we're looking for? Anybody remember off the top of their heads? Shall I just give it to you? Yeah?
So repeat it again?
Which of those string methods will take a string like this, you give it Java and this string and it says yes in some way?
Equals, bracket, string, dot dot.
Not the equals method, no. That's checking to see if the string is exactly what we've specified.
Excellent.
Maybe compare to?
Compare to is an interesting one. Compare to will only tell you, compare to is like, it's like greater than, less than, over strings. So like, A is less than B. It goes through by ASCII values.
Yes. Would it be next line?
Nope. The one we're looking for is...
Is it the ignore case one? Equals ignore case?
Nope. Equals ignore case is still a useful one, but that simply, you know, you can have a lowercase or an uppercase J and it'll match either of those.
Okay.
Right? It's kind of like the equivalent of chaining two lowercase and two equals. Ignore case. Shall I tell you? Yes?
Could it be index of?
That's the one! Give the man a cigar. So, index of tells you the position of a string within another string. So, if you call index of, it would be x dot index of Java. In a string like this, you would get whatever it was, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Your return value would be 8. If you were comparing to a string like this, right, in which the phrase Java does not appear, it would return -1 as an output value. -1 means I did not find it. So, essentially what you're doing is you're testing to see if index of returns -1. And that is how you tell if a string contains another one.
So it would be then if x dot index of all that, then curly, I was gonna say curly brace system dot out dot print line yes.
Like that. If it does not equal -1, then yes, otherwise no.
Or like just yes or system dot out dot print ln yes.
System.out.print, but I want to keep moving. You guys know how to print stuff. All right. Question 10. Write the well, actually, I just saw the time. It's 10:30. I think maybe we are going to have our union mandated break at this point in time. All right. We will have code review at some point in the next segment, but please be ready to resume class at 10:45. I'll give you guys the extra minute.
So code review is this class still?
Yes, most assuredly. I just have to go by my office and grab my notebook, which I forgot.
I took an email about being late, I don't know if you saw.
Nope. Question? Yeah.
I was gonna say we still have the rest of the review to do.
Yes, we do. I hate to break it to you, we're probably not going to get through it all. We should probably jump to some of the longer questions at this point.
I was gonna say if we have time next week after the arrays thing, we can wrap that up.
We will not. Arrays is a topic. So we are going through at present the document. It's a sample test that's been published to the Canvas shell. It answers many of these questions. The test is broadly it's got 3 sections. You've got one section which is short answer, focusing on do you know Java syntax?
I'm
You have-
assuming
That's what we've been going through,
yeah.
right? Section 2 is on longer form coding questions where you will have to write programs. Section 3 is application questions. These are sort of probing your deeper knowledge of the underlying semantics. Generally, the long form coding questions are where plurality of marks are coming from. Question. You've been very patient.
Will we be tested on arrays?
No.
And are we able to use arrays in assignment 2?
Yes. I'm not one of those kind of guys that says, if you know how to use something, like, hold yourself back for the purpose of the assignment, because I haven't taught it to you, right? I'm not jealous that way.
So if we don't know how it works and we want to use it, do we have to find documentation ourselves?
Yeah, but you should find that abundantly. You know, like, how to use arrays in Java is something you should be able to look up on W3 Schools very easily. I encourage you to do so. I consider that to be engagement in the course. So yeah, if you want to use arrays on assignment 2, I think there are a couple of places that they make things easier. Please feel free. I encourage you to do so. Heck, I don't even mind if you use them on the test, actually. Even if there's no question about arrays, but if you find a situation on the test where you think they'd be useful and you use them, I'll grade it. You gotta use them right, though. If it's on a test, you gotta use them right. So know what you're doing, right? Any further questions, or shall we get back to the review? Back to the review? All right. So, let's skip the rest of this section, because, oh my goodness. We only have 3 more questions to go, but, you know. So, let's see. So, question 13 is create a UML class diagram. So, creating UML class diagrams is testable on the test. That's one takeaway there. Write Java code, question 14, write Java code to match the UML diagram below. The constructors and getSet methods are standard with no specific logic in them, etc. So basically, you're given a class diagram, you're given some descriptions of what the methods do, write that class. That might be a good one to do right now. I want to review what's in this section. Be wary of any question which has a large number of points associated with it. Some of these coding questions are quite chunky, right? Question 14 is worth 20 points, a significant fraction of the overall test. Question 15, using the same UML diagram from the previous question, write a main method that will create an object of type discriminant with values, then print on a single line, etc., etc. So the overall thrust of that question is, all right, so you know how to write the class, can you use it? Do you know how to declare it? Do you know how to call methods? Question C, or part C, is then problem solving. There are syntax errors in the code below. What are they? Honestly, I kind of like this type of question. Shall we start there? That's kind of a good, I like that. I want to do this one. I overrule you. I am the professor. This is what we're doing. You know why? Because I think it's a clever trick to project it directly on the board and highlight stuff on the projection. That's why I want to do this question.
Which one are we doing?
The last one. The question in part C. And then maybe we'll implement that class, shall we? Perfect. All right. This code has 5 syntax errors. Ah, you insubordinate swine. There you go. All right.
Are you
Some-
recording?
I am recording, yes.
Alright, good, just want to make sure.
Yeah, I
In case
know.
you forget.
I apologize. So, syntax errors, or others may be errors that will make the program behave badly, which basically means these are syntax errors or semantic errors, right? Runtime errors or compile time errors, all errors here. So, who can spot an error?
On the last line, return number, there's no semicolon here.
That is certainly an error in Java. Very good. Yes?
The method type isn't supposed to be void, that's just returning.
Aha, there you go. So, public void number test, but we have a return value. So, that's wrong. What type should it be returning?
Int? I think.
Yep. Very good. Int. So that's 2. Yes.
I was going to say maybe I'm thinking the return number plus num2 check doesn't really have any like classifications or whatnot. Like like,
Classifications,
you know,
like type classifications?
you know, like, it doesn't start, like, since it seems to be an equation, still there's nothing really, like, to equal it to, you know,
Ah.
like that.
This is valid in this context. This is an expression. You are allowed to put expressions in return statements like this. Yes.
The method, the end is supposed to be a squarely bracket, not a colon.
That's right. We need a curly brace at the top, not a colon. Colon is Python. If I see Python on anybody's Java test, I'm going to write, this is Python. So, anything else?
We're missing curly bracket at the end, I believe.
That one to that one, this one to this one, that one to, yup, we're missing a curly brace there. Now, maybe you want to include that as like being part of the earlier error, right? But, Gesundheit.
Thank you.
There are still some errors to catch. 2 more errors that I can see so far. Yes?
Is it the return number like invalid because number is private?
No, this has access to number because it's a method within the same class, so it does have access to a private number. I like that you're thinking about that though. Yes?
Should the case 10 and default have curly brackets?
No, this is correct. This is correct syntax for cases inside of a switch block. It is, you're getting warmer though.
The switch node check should have a semicolon for the curly braces.
Nope. This is correct. This is correct. These are correct. The tabbing is correct. Yes?
Is it the break statements? Is that it?
What about the break statement?
Is it like, it's not supposed to be there? I don't exactly know how switch statement works.
Ah, well, I'm glad we're reviewing it. As a matter of fact, it's not that the break statements, that this break statement shouldn't be here, but that there should be one here. So, this is how switch cases work. Num2 check, it tests to see if the value is 10. If the value is 10, it places execution here, and then it keeps going until it hits a break statement. It will actually pass through other labels. So without the break statement here, your output, num2 check, case 10, will say match, and then no match, and terminate return. Yes?
So did Python just steal like that type of like if statement in a way? Like while,
Did Python steal that
or
type?
while statements? Like with Python you have while and then the colon and then everything is indented afterwards.
It's kind of a case of convergent evolution, actually. So I'm going to sneeze. Maybe. Oh man, so disappointing. Yeah.
Sometimes that triggers it.
No. No, I don't. What's that called? The cathartic sneeze reflex or something. Anyway, so these have their origins in goto statements. This is how goto statements are written. Python used colon to mean, means this, and then define a function that way. I would say they coincidentally look like each other, but it's actually like it's convergent evolution. Yes?
Main method up top?
Main method up top?
No, we need,
As in there is no main method?
there is no main method, right?
That's not necessarily an error though. We write plenty of classes that don't have one. But yeah, break statement missing, that's a problem. Execution will fall through from one case to another. One more error that I Sorry? Yeah, but there's still one more error. Here's the trick about these types of questions. There's often more errors than they ask you to look for.
Do you need a break on after like on the default? Because it's like the last option. Right?
Some languages require it, some don't.
Oh.
Yeah, I think Java is one that it requires that one, if I recall. Or at the very least, I think IntelliJ complains about it, even if the Java compiler doesn't care.
Oh.
I wish to call your attention for a moment to the method declaration line. Yep.
I was gonna try and guess what it was.
Well, it's somewhere in this line.
Is it? It's not even with the spelling because everything's in camel case. Could it be maybe? It looks like everything's spelled right too.
Shall I tell you? Oh, you got it?
No.
No? Okay.
I was gonna wait.
Trigger groan 3. Oh, yes?
The in the brackets it should be int space num to check.
That's right. The input argument hasn't been typed, which is an error in Java. It's not an error in Python, it's not an error in JavaScript, but here you need to declare the type. Very good. I think that was good review. We learned some stuff about switch cases. So, we have 10 minutes. Let's see if we can do. I'm gonna spare you the agony of like giving you the time and then let's just do it together. All right?
I'm gonna try for
Yeah, we're gonna blast through this in 10 minutes. Question 14. We're going to work through this one together. So, write Java code to match the UML diagram below. The constructors and getSet methods are standard with no special logic. So, we can get a certain way without even reading the rest of the problem, except for, of course, for the diagram. Public class discriminant. We have instance variables. What are they? Read me the diagram.
Double A, double B.
What? Double A. Private double A. Next.
Private double B.
Oh.
Private double C. Private string name.
Do that on the test. You'll save yourself some writing. Do that in code. You'll save yourself some writing. Okay, now we've got a constructor, discriminant, A, B, C, and D. All right, so it's taking everything. Public dis.
Oh wait, sorry, forgot the. Oh no, wait, you put the semicolon. Never mind.
Yes, thank you. Double. So this works when you're declaring variables. It does not work when you're declaring parameters. Okay, you gotta write out double each time. Double A, double B, double C, string name. See, now that we're writing methods, let's check the description to see if there's anything particular about this, right? So, the constructor and getSet methods are standard with no special logic in them except as noted below. Let's see, as noted below, default value for A is 1, do not allow A to be 0. Okay, so that applies to the constructor, right? Two-string method and get discrim. Okay, so A must not be permitted to be 0. Ooh, you want to know what you would do if you really wanted to impress me?
Check this blocking that a bit, don't mind me.
Right? Remember how you're not supposed to use exact equality comparison on floating point numbers? Right? Right? Any objections? All right. So, getters and setters are standard with no special logic, which means they're freebies. So, we've got get A, set A, get B, right? So, public void set A, this, oh. Now, yes.
I'm a little confused. So shouldn't, because A is a double, shouldn't A equal 1.0 instead of just 1?
Again, it doesn't matter. It will work either way. I did forget the semicolon though. If you want that, it's fine. Yeah. So, in this particular instance, what would be most efficient is if you took this check and you put that inside of the set A method, right? And then here you replaced this with set A. That's what would be most efficient, right? Because A is at no point permitted to be 0. So that check could be put here, right? You'd save yourself time. Otherwise, you're writing that if statement twice. And maybe it's not the big deal to write that if statement twice, but we're programmers, we hate writing things twice. So,
This goes right under this dot equals name.
yeah. Like the bracketed section here, this section, make that the set method.
What?
Make that the set method.
Okay. So
The getter,
you were just talking too fast there.
oh, I'm sorry. I sometimes do that when I'm excited. Sometimes I behave a little bit like a small yappy dog. Nothing to write home about with the getter. So, get discrim. You should use the instance variables a, b, and c to compute and return the following quantity: b squared minus 4ac. Public double get discrim does not require any inputs. The inputs are coming from the class variables. Return b times b minus 4 times a times c. If you really want to use math.pow, you may use that as well. You'll find in a lot of languages that like x times x is taken for x squared. It's an abbreviation we often use. Because that's going to be faster than calling the math library function a lot of the time. So, it's like how if you're a really elite coder, you use like bit shifting instead of doing divide or multiply by 2, or any power of 2. We didn't teach you guys bitwise operations. Maybe I'll get bitwise into you at some point.
You do math.
They do in math? Ah, well, they have no excuse then, eh? So, toString. The method should return a string using the pattern shown below, with names A, B, and C replaced with the values of the instance variables. So,
wait.
it looks to me like the pattern doesn't match the output there. So, yes.
Curious about something. How looks different in the question? So how did we get b times b minus 4 times a times c?
That's how you calculate that expression using Java's operators, right?
Oh, okay.
So, like algebra, right? B squared is b times b,
Oh,
b
there
times
it is.
b,
Okay, I didn't see it.
right? Okay. Okay. So, public to the string toString. This is one of those situations where spaces are going to count. Return. We want this dot name. Notice there's no space here. I don't know where this is coming from unless this is like part of the name. I don't know why that would be the case. I guess that must be the value of name in this scenario. It'd be nice if that was said. At any rate, you have a colon with no space, followed by a space, concatenated with this dot A, concatenated with no space, x caret 2 plus space, space, this dot B, concatenated with x space plus space, concatenated with this dot C. Semicolon, close curly brace, close curly brace for the class. I know it's like there, 1, 2, 3, I apologize. But, ha! And you didn't think I could do it in 10 minutes. Any questions?
We got 9 minutes to spare too.
What? No. It's 11:51. The standard allocation of time around here is that you should be given 10 minutes to get to your next class.
Oh.
I know not everybody follows that. I'm not sure it's written into any policy document anywhere, but that is the rule, even if it's unwritten. So, all right. Thank you very much for your time and attention today, folks. Please drive carefully because all of the province of Ontario has run out of road salt. So be careful if you're driving. Okay? Question?
Do you usually use something to help you debug coding?
Use something to help review the coding. Like you mean like extra practice problems?
No, like debugging.
Oh, debugging. Oh, yeah. Okay. If you want, this is worth staying an extra 2 minutes. Nope. This is not it. Wait, yes it is. They've redone their website. What? They did their website.
You want me to pull down that thing?
There you go. Oh, yes, thank you. Python Tutor also does Java. This is a very useful tool. Int x is equal to 5, x is equal to 10, system.out.print line x. Simple program. Get out of here. Visualizing. There we go. You can step through the execution of the program line by line and see how the program state is modified. It's extremely useful, particularly if you're having to deal with object references. Pretty much everything we do in this class should be small enough that you can fit it into this thing. If not, you're probably writing too much code. It has like a line count limit of how much it will eat, how much it will digest. But yeah, that's, if you need a debugging tool, highly recommend this one. Of course, the other alternative is to learn how to use the debugger in IntelliJ, which I don't have any slides on. But at some point, if someone asks, I'll go on a tangent about breakpoints. Okay.
Everything we did today worked.
Yes. Okay. Class is properly dismissed. Thank you very much.
Is my code just only needs comments and I can submit it, right?
Does it work?